Hello, and welcome to our brand new innovation series of webinars where we invite you to meet our game changers. These are key opinion leaders who've been pioneers in adopting novel diagnostic solutions. So in episode 2, we are joined by Sue Lovegrove, who'll be discussing her journey towards full lab automation with WaspLab. We're also joined by Kate Donachie, who'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A function for questions, and also available at the end for our live Q&A, where you can raise your hand and we can unmute you and then you can speak directly with Sue. We've also got Danielle Maxwell with us today from our lab consultancy team. So she can field any specifically technical questions that might not be aimed at Sue that you might have. I should also say that this is a pre-recorded event. You'll also be able to watch the video with full interactive access, and you can stop and start your own video. But just to be clear, this won't affect the video for anyone else. But please bear in mind that at the end of the runtime on my screen, the live Q&A will start. The full video will, of course, be made available on YouTube afterwards for you to view if you wish to do so. So without further ado,
my name's Sue Lovegrove. I am the microbiology service lead for Black Country Pathology Services. From a network point of view, we're classed as Midlands 1, but we are a consolidated pathology department for microbiology, histopathology, immunology, and the rest of blood sciences are in the process of combining.
And tell me a little bit about that network. Is kind of population coverage, or how many beds you cover?
So we cover 4 trusts which all fit within the Black Country ICB. The population that the hospital serves is about 1.8 million. And the trusts we provide the service for are Royal Wolverhampton NHS Trust, Walsall Hospitals NHS Trust, Dudley Group Foundation Trust, and Sandwell and West Birmingham NHS Trust.
So can you give us a sense of the size of the laboratory and the sample numbers?
So our microbiology laboratory currently has 122 members of staff. That's all technical, doesn't include any of the consultant microbiologists. We process around and about 100,000 samples a month. So that would be about 4,000 blood cultures a month, 5,000 urines a week, and about 4,500 MRSA swabs a week. Enteric PCR can be up to about 600 samples a week, and chlamydia and GC PCR can get up to around 5,000 a week.
Okay, so we're here to talk about innovation, and obviously you've taken, automation as a real positive and brought it into the trust here. So tell me a little bit about beforehand. What was the status quo then, and why did you feel that it needed to change?
So I think the automation journey for what was originally Wolverhampton Microbiology started 20 years ago. We were one of the first labs to install a Vitek 2 for automated sensitivity testing, and basically we've moved on from there. So over the last 20 years, we've added more and more pieces of kit. We've had some very dynamic leaders within microbiology who are driven to move to automation and progress the department. The other 4 departments, as we merged together, they had their own automation in their own right. Some of it we've merged together, some of it we went out to tender and awarded the overall bacteriology contract to bioMérieux.
The biggest piece of automation in the lab, which is the WaspLab. Can you tell me why you needed to move to that? What was it the staffing? Was it the time? Was it just the sheer number of samples?
The main reason was we had 2 Previ isolars that were through the bioMérieux contract that were plate spreading machines, basically. We were very keen to add to those Previ isolars. So a long time ago, there was the equipment was being developed and there was going to be an add-on, and then the decision was made that bioMérieux weren't progressing that, and they formed a relationship with Copan. So therefore, because we'd signed up to that development, we were then lucky enough to be able to sign up to the WaspLab. The main reason is we've got the automation, our workload was increasing, and we needed to future-proof the department.
When you talk about future proofing, so there's been a lot of changes. You say you started this 20 years ago, so there's been a lot of changes. So can you kind of give an idea of where you were then and where you are now?
So 20 years ago, the Vitek 2 was my master's project. That provided a greater range of antibiotic sensitivity testing for one isolate that helped with the drive of the trust to reduce MRSA septicemia rates, monitor infection prevention in a different way, and it was a whole trust approach to it. We then moved on to look at other automation. So we looked at urine flow cytometry. When they trust introduced MRSA screening, there was a drive from NHS England to start screening people for MRSA. That's why we implemented the Previ isolas. There's a drive for every piece of automation. It can be linked to national guidance. It can be linked to the development of the department. It can be, but it's always the needs of the service. Some automation has provide staff savings, some of it hasn't. It's just improved the quality of the result that we provide. I think it's important to remember when you're doing something like that, that don't get rid of your staff before you start. You will find the benefits of it, but it sometimes takes longer than you expect. Our automation journey might have started 20 years ago, but we've probably still got another 20 years to go, to be brutally honest.
So would you say that automation, it's constantly evolving? It's just the way that...
Yeah, so our first WASP lab line was installed 7 years ago. We're now at the point of, do we need to think about refreshing it? It's a bit of a traumatic thought because we don't have much laboratory space left. But there are developments to the WASP lab. There's the Calibri, there's Vitek mass spec primes that are already in other laboratories that we need to look at, and it's how we can utilise both of those to improve the service, to provide the biomedical scientists with the sciencey and interesting things to do. And if we can give them more time to do that, that's why they pick that career. So that's what interests them more.
And that's a really interesting point, I think, because I know from my own experience that sometimes when you talk about automation and moving things to automation, there is that worry about the staff. So from the team here, you know, are they really seeing the benefit of having more time to focus where they need to focus and where their expertise lies rather than, say, more manual things?
I wouldn't like to say they see it at this precise moment in time. I think they can see the developments and how it will improve it. I think we're 12 months after our last service transition. 12 months ago, we said, oh, it'll all be fine in 12 months' time. We are in a much better position than we were. We're not quite where we want to be, but we're definitely moving in the right path. So they can see the benefits. I think sometimes it's difficult with the size of the team that we have to see the enthusiasm pass all the way through the team. But I think as things come in and they can see the benefit and the benefit to the patient, that's when we see the positive outcome.
So this is a constant project. It sounds like there's always moving parts, and it's such a big undertaking. In terms of trying to get something like this over the line, are there certain stakeholders you need to bring in? Is there, you know, who's involved in kind of implementing such a big change?
My answer is going to be everybody's involved, everybody within BCPS. So you've got the microbiology technical team, but you need the clinical team to be on board with it. You need IT to be on board with it. You need procurement to be on board with it. You then have to illustrate the benefits and the savings to all partner trusts. It's not just one. Everybody needs to buy into it. We also then have to inform the ICB from a community point of view. So can they see the benefits? We have the support for the development. The pathology network is a driven pathology network. We're not on our own in microbiology in our developments. All pathology disciplines are looking to develop. They're looking for digital pathology. They're all looking to what AI could we introduce? How can we make processes more lean? What other automation could we bring in? Is it IT automation or is it analyzer automation? It's definitely the drive with the size of the departments and the workload that you have. You've got to look at how you can develop your service to be resilient and be able to continually provide the service and any future asks that come from any of the partner trusts.
So it's great to hear that you've had the support and that drive comes internally, but what are the barriers? What are the blocking points when you undertake a project like this? I mean, you would say logistics, building space, but is there anything specific?
I think that barriers can be building space. Barriers can be to make sure you include all the costs. It's not just the cost of the automation. What's your enabling works? Have you included all of that? Where are you at in a contract? So if you're in a managed service contract, have you got the funding to add it in? Where are you going to find the funding from? You don't necessarily want to look at staff savings, but you need to improve the service that you provide. So how best is that to do that? Now, say if your workload was increasing, you could utilise that as a drive that with the combined workload, then your budget would increase. That potentially would give you the funding to bring in your automation, which is some of the automation we've brought in the last few years has been funded from a consolidation of service.
So why bMRU, and what's the benefit of having, everything from one provider? As in, do you see a benefit of having things that kind of connect to each other?
I think, but the answer is it's the connection between everything. If you don't have the connection, you don't get the workflow that you need. You've got to be as streamlined as you can. I think the relationship with bMRU and the relationship that bMRU has with Copan to keep seeing the developments is a real benefit. I think over the last 7 years, we were very new to WaspLab, but so was bMRU. So we all learned at the same time. I was involved in the project management of the first WaspLab line. So we sat and we built the interface between the LIMS and Copan, and we all sat in a row. And there was me, and there was the people from the IT supplier, there was bMRU, there was IT from the trust, and we all did the testing, we all sat in the line. Because we've built it in a way from the beginning, we understand it better, we can see the developments, the way that it's moving on. So the FINA matrix with the AI, it used to take us 4 hours to read MRSA plates, we can do it in 10 minutes. That's the benefit.
From obviously there's lots of moving parts, there's lots going on. How do you find the partnership with bMRU from that day to day, separate from a big initial project?
The moving parts, sort of the business as usual, and the servicing, and if we have technical issues, has improved significantly over the last 2 years, to be honest. I think we implemented our second line right in the middle of the pandemic. Wouldn't have necessarily been the best time to do anything like that, but we had to because we were merging our services. The relationship is probably one of the best relationships you could have with a supplier. It's not without its issues, but everything is dealt with in a timely manner. We look for resolution, we work together. It's understanding our needs for our service. And I think because we are so large, it's not that common at this moment across the country to have a service that's that big in one place and so reliant on that automation. But I think as more and more networks come on board, it becomes the normal. And therefore it's the service provided by bMRU is more resilient. The engineers we have on site are all local. It's great. They can appear within 45 minutes if they need to. And they kind of become one of the team, to be honest.
So if you think about the impact of the automation, so you've and having that integrated solution, so you've said that you can do your MRSAs in 10 minutes. Can you give any kind of overview of the impact as a whole?
So the simplest way to look at it is we actually only have FINA matrix on line 2. If we load MRSAs on line 1, there's some very glum faces in the morning, is the simplest way to put it, because they've got to read every single one. They can do it in screening, so you can do 10 at a time, but I don't think you realise what you've got till it's not there. And a long time ago, we used to say if the Vitec needed servicing, it was out of use for a day, or we're doing manual sensitivity testing. And everybody was like, oh, really? It's the same with the WaspLab. A lot of our support staff haven't worked in microbiology without that automation, so they don't know what it was like before. They don't know that they had to put up 600 MRSA screens by hand. They're just used to that automation.
And can you see an impact, say, from the trust point of view or clinically and in terms of getting those results to patients?
There is an impact on the trust. I think the trust very quickly gets used to it and therefore notices when it's not there. We have agreed turnaround times for all our tests, but they are built with that automation in mind. If the automation isn't there, we won't meet the turnaround time. We've recently introduced the BioFire for CSF PCR. That had a positive impact from the paediatric departments within 2 days, because if it was negative, they were able to discharge the patient, the child could go home. So that's the impact on the trust across the board. I'm not saying we're without our problems. We've still got improvements to make, but the automation definitely helps.
From your perspective, is there any kind of highlights, the achievements that have come in the last few years? Is there any kind of standout point where you thought, yeah, this is...
The Phenomatrix, if you asked, it's the Phenomatrix that makes a difference. The developments that we can move forward with that. So if we move to Phenomatrix tag, that has a massive impact on the team. And actually, when you look at it, the resource that you had to put into it didn't see the benefit of the outcome of it. Whereas with the Phenomatrix, it really does. I think the key to it is you could sit and read plates all day with automation, but you don't need to. You need to plan your day. So you need to read some plates. You then need to do the picking, and you need to, it's like a cyclic movement, like any lean process. That is sometimes difficult to keep going. And because there's always plates to read, but it doesn't mean that you should always read.
I think it's really important because it is that mind
shift. It's the mindset, and actually keeping that mindset there and everybody being on the same page.
And I suppose micro was always a really manual discipline. It was always a slow discipline. Do you think that stands true now?
We used to incubate the plates all overnight and you take everything else out in the morning, but then you'd be sat with a bench full of plates and going, oh, how am I going to do all of this? You don't have that anymore. You might have numbers on a screen, but your bench isn't full of plates.
It was always kind of done, as you say, it went into the incubator. The following morning you start with that big stack.
Yes.
And work your way through. So do you with the Phenomatrix, do you have any kind of automated release of results or?
No, but we're a 24/7 service, so we have a band 6 specialist biomedical scientist who lone works on a night shift. They will potentially release the Phenomatrix, the MRSAs and the urines at 5:30 in the morning if they're ready. They'll read some plates overnight. If they've got 20 minutes because they haven't got a positive blood culture or a urgent fluid to look at, they'll sit and read some plates for 20 minutes.
And you say, so this is 24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is, lots of call around that 24/7 and moving towards it. Do you feel that this is an easier way to achieve that?
I think it's easy. I think, again, it's the mindset of the department and the staff. And if you are moving from an on-call service to a night shift and not actually moving services, that might be more achievable. I think we did everything at the same time in a pandemic. Not necessarily the best way to do it, but needs must, and we got on with it. I think it's the mindset of being here all night is difficult for certain members of the team to take on board. It's a change in your home life. I think we're getting there. We've been doing 24/7 for 2 years now. We're not 100% settled. There's still improvements to be made, but it definitely works because you're covering four acute hospitals. If you were doing on call, you'd just be driving backwards and forwards all night. At least when you finish at 6 in the morning, you're done. You're not expected to be at work at 9 o'clock again. So yeah, that's the benefit of it. And also you're on site. As soon as that sample is there, you can process it.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of talk at the moment around the blood culture pathway and the new guidance. And in terms of managing blood cultures when you're covering, a number of trusts, has there been any impact with the automation on that side?
Well, our blood culture analyzers are based at each of our sites. So they are received and loaded by our colleagues in the chemistry ESLs. They load them. If they flag positive, they unload them and send them to us. We have hourly transport 8 till 8, 7 days a week. And then they take off positives at 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. and send them to us, and then they're processed. Those positive blood cultures aren't necessarily telephoned, but you will have a culture and a preliminary ID by the time your consultant is there in the morning. So that is the benefit to it. And they're loaded 24/7. So the requirement to load a blood culture within 4 hours of being taken is available.
Yeah, and then that is one of those key KPIs. Yeah. But you know, how important is having that relationship with the clinicians so that they recognize that, you know, the improvement is there and the result is there, and then act on it?
I think it's a difficult one, and it's about building the relationship. We provide a performance slide for every partner trust that illustrates the volume in a blood culture bottle that month. We share, so our monthly performance report includes the blood culture KPIs, but it also includes a top 10 tests. So it includes the time from the flagging of a positive blood culture to the time a gram's available. We include the time a CSF was received to when the microscopy is available. We include MRSA screening. We include C. diff testing. There's a range of them, and we illustrate our achievement of our agreed turnaround time per trust. So every trust can see how microbiology is performing for the whole network. So we don't just provide Wolverhampton with Wolverhampton data. We provide them with Walsall, Dudley and City, West Sandwell, so that we're open and honest with the work that we're providing.
So you're monitoring the blood culture volume as part of those
Yes.
KPIs. Do you think you'd be able to do that without the automation?
Not without the Virtuo, no. You won't be able to do it at all.
Do you feel that having that data will or does at the moment help improve any, say, education initiatives outside?
This is what we're starting to do. So this is the data we're sharing with the trusts, and every trust has a director who it's part of their responsibility for the retained pathology services. So that information goes to them. They then disseminate it into their trust. We're now looking at who can we contact directly within each trust. So at Wolverhampton, we've contacted the phlebotomy manager, and we're doing the same at Dudley to just say, are you aware this is the average volume fill for September or for October? You can see an improvement, but some of the bottles can be as low as 6 mils, 5 mils.
Yeah, I think that's a common, but I think that's a common issue, you know, across all of the UK. So I think hopefully having this having the data available. There's a large number of hospitals involved, there's a large number of samples, large number of patients, and you do seem to be really interested in that audit perspective and the numbers and the data. So how important is it for you to have that information, and do you think that having that integrated solution helps you get that data?
It's vital to have the information, because you've got to illustrate to your partner trusts, or to all of the trusts that we provide the service for, that we are providing the service that we said we would provide. Part of the consolidation of services was that there would be no negative impact. We said we would maintain all services and then start to develop. We're now at the point of development, but we had to maintain every single service that was being provided beforehand. The integrated solution does significantly help, because we can provide image off a plate if we want to. If a clinician queries a result, they can look it up on the web app themselves if they want to. They wouldn't have had that before. We're looking at how we can develop that further. They've got access to the Vitex software, so if they wanted to look up an antibiotic pattern, they could. It's as networked as we can make it. I think there are future developments that could make it even better. I'm not sure I'd go as far as letting my staff sit at home and read the plates, but that could be an option. We could sit at a different site.
And you talk about future development. So what are the future plans? Is there a definite short-term plan, long-term plan? Will it stay that way or evolve?
Microbiology doesn't stand still. we're always looking at the next thing. I think where we're not very good at is we don't celebrate what we've done. So like I said before, we've introduced BioFire CSF PCR for every CSF that's received in the department. We're looking at developing from the Phenomatrix to Phenomatrix tag. I'm in the process of writing a business case for 2 Colibris. So the Colibri is the next step from the WASP lab to produce your mass spec slide and your sensitivity dilution. It's adding value to the service, and adding value that not in a negative way, always in a positive way. As well as doing these bacteriology changes, we're looking at tests that we send away. What can we repatriate? Can we provide a better turnaround time than we're currently getting, whilst hopefully saving some money at the same time?
And for anyone then who was contemplating looking at automation in general and then a full-scale integrated automated lab, what would be the advice you'd give, and what would be those things to watch out for?
I'd go and have a look at somewhere who's already doing it, and actually take people from within your team who will be doing that task to go and visit it as well. Don't just go as a management team. Take your MLAs with you. Let them spend the day with the staff who are running the automation so they can see what it's about. It's understanding what you're buying into. It's not going to fix all your problems, but it's going to help with a lot. It's making sure you've got the finances available, and are you able to agree to that change, or do you need other people to be on board? So do you need your other stakeholders to understand the benefits from it? Are you doing it as a network solution? And if you're not, how are you going to fit it in? Do you physically have the space for it? I mean, our WASP lab lines are all straight lines. I'm aware that they can go through walls, but it's about having this floor space and the capacity and making sure you can fit it in, rather than just trying to shoehorn it into a corner, because that won't work.
And is there anyone who needs to be, say, from outside the laboratory side, is there anyone else who needs to be there from that beginning?
Your estates team. If you're installing automation, your estates team from your building need to know exactly what's going in and the impact and the timeline from their perspective for enabling works. If you don't include them from the beginning, it may cause you delays.
And what about the IT side? This is something that we see more and more, and I think it's because of that need for data. And I think it's about because microbiology has gone so complex now with the results that you're providing. So would you see having them on board early as a benefit?
Oh, they need to be on board from the beginning. If you don't have, it depends how your IT team's built up. We have a specialist IT lead for microbiology, but he is employed by the BCPS IT team, but he's based in microbiology. So he will liaise with IT for us. If you don't, you definitely need them on board. They're a vital piece to it. You can't make any changes without them.
So thank you, Sue, for taking your time out today to talk to us about innovation. And we'll go back to the live Q&A.
It's fine. Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Everybody, thanks again, Sue. That was fantastic, even better than I remembered, actually. And I see incredibly also, you've been answering some of the questions that have been put in the chat already. Incredibly proactive. But I'm going to hand over Kate to this section now, and I think we might ask some of those again, unless anybody wants to raise a hand and unmute themselves.
Yeah, so while we're kind of seeing if anyone's raising their hands, yeah, there's still some questions coming in, and I've seen that you've answered some of them, Sue, you know, being as efficient as ever. Just around the training, because there was a couple of those, you know, just around, is it easier? Is there a different plan that you need to put in place? What, you know, do you need to have additional training so that they have the backup for those manual methods?
Oh, well, to be honest, we haven't probably done formal training for manual methods, because if you've got to manually culture a liquid swab, you need to pipette it, don't you? You can't use a swab. We're lucky enough, we've got 2 WASP lab lines, so if one goes down, we can move it all around a bit. But there is still an element of that, and staff are taught that. I mean, and I appreciate, I put in the chat that the support staff is easier to train than the biomedical scientist, but that is the position we're in, I think. So like a lot of our support staff are new. Some of 50% of our biomedical scientist team are new, but then 60% of them transferred in the service transition. So actually we're probably at 80% were new. Where we're at now is that they probably all know their own bit, but the biomedical scientists don't know how the WASPs work. So therefore, if they're on the late shift or the night shift, if something happens to the WASP line, they need to know how to fix it, or they're very keen to know how to fix it. So one of the things that we've got programmed in next is that some of the biomedical scientists will have the WASP training. And we did that at the very beginning, but then things get lost in the system. We've had a very complicated 3 years. But it's vitally important to make sure the people who are doing the job are trained for that job, but then you do need to think outside of the box a little bit of what happens when they're not there. When we implemented our WASP lines, there was some training sessions, and I'm being vague because I can't remember their name, because they were called one thing and now they're called something else. And you'll probably tell me what it is, or Danielle will. But it's different sessions. So it's how the WASP works, how the WASP lab works, how the web app works, and it's for key staff for different bits. If you can include all your staff in all the sessions, then you're great and you've got it all covered. But you've got to think about the needs of your service, because you can't empty your microbiology department for a day, can you, to train everybody? You've still got to provide the service. And I think one of the other benefits of the training that we have, so within our contract, we have a training allocation every year. So if we've got new starters, they can have that formal training. So that is definitely a benefit. And to be honest, the engineers are very good. And if they're doing something, they're quite happy to show a member of staff at the same time.
It's very interesting that you say you're training them for the service as opposed to training them microbiology. I suppose that's what their formal training and their education is for.
Well, it is, but we still, being very honest, we, like I put in the chat, we've got 16 specialist portfolios all going on at the same time. I mean, before our service transition, we might have had 2 at every site. So we've got a lot of band 5 staff who are very, very good. They're just still developing, they're still learning. So they're learning the microbiology as well as the automation. That is our honest challenge. And it's a challenge that when we're working our way through, we're not there, and I don't know what the answer is. And if anybody else has got any answers how you train a workforce that you've just transitioned and all the new ones at the same time, I'd love to hear it. I think it's just, it takes a lot longer than you think it should.
Suggestion so in the chat for Sue.
Yeah.
So you did mention about the liquid swabs, and there was a question about using them. Was that a big change over, or had you been using anything like that before?
So prior to the service transition, Wolverhampton on their own were already converted to liquid swabs. The other 3 sites weren't, but it was part of the service transition. So it was one of the key tasks that we had to do. So we went to specific stakeholders, to different departments. We've got instruction sheets, and then we walked around the hospitals and the GP drove around some of the big GP locations and swapped out the swabs. The only trouble we ever had was that, to begin with, it was not to moisten the swab before you use it, and don't tip the liquid out of it. But that's a historic problem. We haven't seen that recently.
Good to hear. So you obviously supported the GPs, and I see one of the questions then was around the advice that you'd give to anyone planning to bring in some automation. But there's another question more around the partner trusts there, that with you having such a high throughput, and there's a move to centralised microbiology services elsewhere across the UK. Do you have any advice to the partner trusts on how to change their service, or any advice or recommendations you could give?
I think it's just trying to keep everybody on board and making sure that they're aware. I mean, we've done 3 service transitions. They've all been done in a slightly different way, because each trust does actually work in a slightly different way, and you don't realise it till you've got them all together under one roof and you've issued a change, which you think will have been communicated, you've gone through the right routes, but actually that information didn't quite filter through. to all the trusts as it has in other trusts, if you see what I mean. It is a challenge when you've got more than one site to make sure you're there, and it's very difficult to split yourself into 4. It's having enough people there to support you and to work with you. And I think we're quite lucky that as a directorate, as BCPS, we have a lot of people who resources available to us when we've been doing something like that. And we utilise IT to help with the rollout, which you would think, well, why are IT involved? But actually, they know to show them how to request it properly. So they might be walking around the hospital swapping out the sample containers, but they're also showing them how to request properly at the same time. And it's interlinking all of that together is quite a challenge. But once you've done it once, it's easier to do it the next time.
Good to hear.
Not that I wish you to do it again. Just put it
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. Take it
I'm
on.
done.
You're done. You've done your stint. Another audience question there is, do you have any plans to adopt any non-culture molecular automation for samples that you are currently using Copan for?
Non-culture. The only request that is different across BCPS is CPE screening. So we have 1 trust that offers CPE PCR and 3 trusts that offer CPE culture. We would be happy to move to PCR, but that trust needs to have its own business case to fund it. We can't do it for them. That element has to go back to each trust to do that. When we introduced a BioFire, that was a service improvement from the microbiology perspective. So microbiology did the business case and shared it across the 4 trusts to illustrate the savings and the benefits. So there are 2 ways to look at it, and it depends. The CPE side of it is national guidance and the screening and well, I'm saying it's the new guidelines. They're not new, are they? They're about 2 years old now. But that is the one definite element that we would look to. I think some of the other future developments, but they're not specifically WASP related, might be mycology PCR. But we're a bit away off looking at that at the moment.
I'm going to kind of half combine another 2 questions. So Jennifer asks, what times do you stop culturing samples and reading plates, or do you do this 24/7 enabled by WASP Lab? And is your week and weekend service exactly the same using automation? And that kind of feeds into another question around using Phenomatrix to plan the workload.
So our support staff, so the support staff are band 2s and 3s that work the WASP Lab line. They work from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. So we start processing samples on the WASP Lab at about 9:30, 9:45, because they need to pack it up and put the plates away. But that doesn't mean that they have to stop reading. The idea of the reading is we have 3 BMSs that work on a late shift. They've all got specific tasks, but one of them is to carry on with what we have a centralized reading ID and send section. But they read what they can then do the further work on. It is different every night. Some nights they can get a lot done, other nights they can't, depending how many blood cultures, how many sterile fluids, how many tissues. There's not a definitive amount of work that's required of them. That is still done in the core day of 9 till 5, to be honest. It's just if they have available. So like I said, the night shift can read that if they have time available. Obviously, like every service, some nights you're really, really busy. Other nights you'll have 3 positive blood cultures and 1 CSF. It's very varied, and it's something that we're still monitoring, and it's very difficult to put a task list together for that to include that, is what we're finding. Does that kind of answer the question? And the week and weekend service, so no, the week and weekend service, from an automation point of view, it is run for the same length of time, so from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m, 7 days a week. We have less staff in on a weekend, but we don't provide the same service on a weekend as we do during the week at this moment in time. We don't have the staff for it when there isn't the drive from the partner trust to do that at the moment. So like we don't routinely culture TB 7 days a week. We don't do all our serology or all our molecular service 7 days a week. But the routine bacteriology over the weekend, you get to Sunday evening and it's all sorted.
Good. Do you use molecular platforms that link in with WASP Lab, or do you use standalone platforms for
No,
molecular
they're
testing? So they're all
standalone.
standalone.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they don't link.
Yeah, it's just the core micro. And Danielle wonders, so we do have the Copan has developed the reading Chrome ID CSP urine media at 12 hours for direct ID of E. coli. Can you see this being beneficial to the lab, and in what way?
I'm interested to look at it. I think my instant concern is, are the colonies going to be too small? But that's my only, till I've seen it. But definitely interested, yeah, 100%. And can see a benefit of it, but you'd need to have, if you've got the plate read, you then need to have the people there to do the further work or to run your Calibri. So you've got to have everything there to see the true benefit of it.
And I think we'll have one more quick question, because I see we're at 10. Do you have point of care testing for infectious disease screening in A&E or pediatrics, etc.?
So the only point of care testing that we have in place is for COVID, flu and RSV. And that is in ED and paediatrics at every site for ED and 3 of our 4 sites in paediatrics. The 4th site, which is City and Sandwell, they are, well, I say soon, hopefully by this time next year, we'll have moved into the Midland Metropolitan Hospital. That is when they'll have point of care in paediatrics. But again, we've not moved further than COVID, flu and RSV. And it's not currently on our timeline, to be honest.
Okay, so prepped for the respiratory season to come.
Yes.
We hope. I think that's all of the questions, and we do have just 1 minute left. So I'll just hand over to Jamie. I see him coming off mute there.
Yes, indeed. So just want to say once again, thank you very much, Sue. That was brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you to all of you also for joining us online. There's been some fantastic questions put in the chat there, so thank you all for that. Just one last thing. I think it would be remiss of me to not to mention that, of course, this is only the second of 4 of our webinar series. So we have next week, we have Bunbury, Martindale, Sheldon. And if you if you scan the QR code there, you'll be able to register for Bunbury next week. So I look forward to seeing you all then. So thank you very much and goodbye.